have any animals in there with you now? Or are you like inside the house?
We're in the house.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So basically the only change from last year, because we were in the house, but super bare bones, like dry cabin, nothing. Yeah, I think when we talked last, I don't even think there was a bathroom inside. It was all open. I don't even know if I'd hung curtains yet to like give us our walls, you can see. So we're a little further in our developing our home situation, but it's still slow going.
So last time you were out with the chickens, are you guys still doing chickens? And are they the same ones?
Yeah, yeah. Our flock is about 30. We've had some crazy moms that right at the beginning of fall decided to hatch out a bunch of chicks. And so we do have a few more. We didn't do, usually we cull every year because I won't have
Hmm.
a flock more than 2 years old. And so we'll cull every year. And we didn't cull any this year. And we didn't get any chicks, but then the moms had some babies and we just let them do it. We just kind of slowed down and chilled out this year. And we're like, it's just 1 year and it's going to be fine. So we didn't do any focusing on chickens this year.
When do they usually lay an egg? Why is that weird delay in fall?
Typically if I'm gonna I mean, because they'll do it anytime, they'll go broody anytime. But if I'm gonna let moms hatch out babies, I would do it like late spring and in the summer. Because their odds of like if they're a bad mom and they ditch their babies, like it'll
Mm.
kind of be okay because it's warmer. But because we don't like offer any heat sources or anything, that means I have to take the babies and keep them warm and do all of that stuff. And I do lots of stuff, and that's just one of the stuffs I don't want to do. So if they're going to do it, I'm like, you better be a good mom, take good care of them, and hatch them out when it's nice and warm. But they've done great. They have done great. Um, they've been keeping their babies warm. She won't go into the coop because they free range, and she won't go into the coop with them. But she's got this passel of like 10 chicks running behind her,
Cute.
and she's doing awesome.
We
Yeah.
can't have chickens, and I'm always complaining about it. I've never done anything about it, but we have
Uh-huh.
crazy, bears, and just this year we've had bears and mountain lions, and it will bring the predators. And like the predators are here. You can
Hmm.
fortify
Hmm.
and keep chickens anyway. And the neighborhood across the street from us has chickens and horses, and they can do all the cool stuff that we can't do.
Yeah, we don't lack predators out here. I mean, I've been in a tree watching my goat give birth and the
A
wind
bear in a tree?
a bear in
That's
a
high
tree.
stakes.
Yeah. And it was just chilling up there. It was dark and I had gotten home. I had this one doe that was due to kid and I had every time I went out there I'm like you're going to do it the second I leave. And I had run into town and I had a friend coming up from Oregon and I went and got her. We came back, we ate dinner, and I was like, I have a goat that's about to kid. Let's go check on her. I go out there. She had kid. There's a mess everywhere after birth. And my two livestock dogs were real relaxed and everything. And same
Nice.
with our like family dog. And then all of a sudden the wind shifts. You hear it through the trees and then just mayhem. The dogs freak out, about leap over the fence. Our family dog, he goes barreling off into the dark and you hear this like scratch, 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 like just like this bear is just falling down this tree
Yeah.
and takes off. My husband and my brother-in-law are over. We were still in the trailers at this point and they're over there. So they come running out with guns and my friend's got a baby on her hip and she's like, is this like normal? Do we do this all the time? Like, no, not really, but there's a bear in the tree. Yay, exciting. But
Is that the one that was visiting from Oregon?
yeah, yeah. Just
Okay.
a really
Baby
good
on the hip.
friend.
Welcome to our house.
Yeah. And then that night, she was staying in a tent. And that night she texted me and she's like, there is something outside my tent because she was all like revved up from this
Mhm.
experience. And it was a cat. It was a cat playing with one of the cords. And
Oh,
it was just one of our barn cats, but she
yeah.
was just all like tweaked out about the bear. So she was a little on high alert. It was pretty funny.
Well, they do come back. They'll circle back around. We
Mhm.
actually found, because we had so many encounters with the same bear and just one other bear,
Mhm.
we found getting in the car and just laying on the horn
Mhm.
was enough to kind of get them out of the area. We can't shoot, we can't do anything really about them.
Mhm.
Um, but I found that was a nice tip after so many encounters. We started figuring out just lay on the horn and, they'll scamper.
Mhm. Yeah. There we realized because we didn't really know a lot about like their habits and how they behave and stuff. Because bears were a big issue for us our first year here, and then our second as well. They were popping up all over the place. We had dispatched one of our meat goats and had it hanging in a tree, and we've always had our
Mhm.
livestock dogs just guard the tree. Because there wasn't really a great place to hang them. We don't have like a room or anything that's like nice and temperature controlled. So we have to wait until late fall, early winter. And it was kind of an amateur move, but it was hanging in a tree, plenty high. We're thinking
Mhm.
like coyotes and wolves. This bear climbs up the tree, chews the rope. The bottom part of our goat comes down out of the tree, and it's just sitting there chewing on our goat. The dogs, they won't jump the fence unless they're protecting their herd, and their herd was
Hmm.
fenced. So they were like freaking out, but they didn't do anything about our glorious goat carcass hanging from the tree getting eaten by a bear.
So how do you train? Do you find dogs like that? Do you train dogs? Is that kind of just in their breed and their nature?
Yes and yes. Um,
Okay.
so livestock dogs, there's certain breeds that thrive. They need jobs, just like, your herding dogs and stuff. It's not the same as like a guardian for livestock. Their personality, they're more prone to bond with other animals. And when they're raised in that, they're like the alpha. So they are looking at the weaker animals that they're surrounded
Cool.
by, and they just begin to protect them. So um, yeah, the our two dogs, we've raised since puppies, to love their goats and their lambs. And my particular dogs don't do as well with chickens. Like they're fine, but every once in a while they're like chicken snack. And so they don't do as well with that. But there are dogs that protect poultry all the time.
Hmm.
I just didn't focus enough in that area with mine. But yeah, it's certain breeds that just thrive in that. Um,
Hmm.
and then there's certain breeds that just you should never and would never. It just doesn't work out. But
My
yeah,
specific dog at
yeah,
home
it's
right
very
now,
much in their
for
nature.
example. What's the breed?
So one of ours is he is my love. He's a Central Asian Shepherd. He's 170 pounds.
Whoa.
He looks like a polar bear. He's
Okay.
gorgeous. Amazing temperament. We actually got him while we were still in Oregon, with the intention of property protection because we had a fully fenced 2 acres. So he would run the 2 acres, and just, keep people from stopping and messing around. My kids played out there. Like we had some weird instances around the pandemic, and so it was really great to have a giant dog running the
Hmm.
property. And he adapted really well from a little bit of livestock protection, but mainly like a family protection. Their temperaments, Central Asian Shepherds, it's incredible. I will not go on because I could go on for days. The breed is amazing. Um, Kind of hard to find. But it's becoming a more popular breed. Our other dog, he's a mix. He's Great Pyrenees, Maremma, and then he has like a little dash of Akbash in him. So he just looks like those really fluffy Pyrenees, long hair. Like he just looks like that. But that's the three breeds that he is, which are all livestock breeds.
Wow.
Um, and they're totally different. Their temperament and their personality, but livestock dogs are so cool. The way they like orchestrate themselves. Our larger dog, bigger bark, louder bark, and he is like frontline. He always goes straight to the fence line. Whereas our other dog, Jax, he goes and herds all the animals, and he'll usually herd them into the barn a little bit. And or he'll just stand and kind of weave in between them and kind of keep them in a tight area, and then Sig's out barking and being intense, him and his 170 pounds. But livestock dogs are so cool. The way they work is just so fascinating and really, really amazing.
And back to the bears, just even temperament around big animals, or are they like on guard around big animals? How do they interact? And did you train them
Um,
to do that?
yes. Yes, there, I mean, there definitely is like them being aware. But then like even between the breeds of livestock dogs, like Sig, the Central Asian Shepherd, even from a puppy, so mellow. And he was always looking up. He's just always looking around. He always had eyes on my kids. Um, and so, like, I mean, they bark at hawks and crows. They know
Hmm.
birds of prey are a no. Um, they they alert us when there's deer around, which can be very helpful. They alert us when there's other animals around, but their reaction to like deer
Hmm.
is not the same as a bear. A bear, you can hear like a little bit of panic, um,
Okay.
from the house. A deer is just loud, but it's intermittent and they're just watchful, distrustful. But a bear is like they turn into Cujo. It's really, I really enjoy just being out there and watching them look around. If a bear lands in the pasture, a bird lands in the
Mm.
pasture, they chase it off. It doesn't matter if it's a Tweety bird or a crow. Um, they're just very, very intense about their job, and it's really cool.
How are they handling goats to cows?
That is like this huge, this huge thing. They do great around cows. We have that experience this year because we had so many steers breaking onto our property, and then mowing over our poly net, which is what we rotationally graze our goats and lambs in. They
Hmm.
were just mowing over it to get to our water trough. Because they couldn't find their way off of our property and they hadn't seen the pond yet. So they
Hmm.
were going after our water troughs. And same thing, like they would alert us that they were there, but they just weren't bothered by them. Um, which was a little annoying given that at that point we weren't transitioning into cows. And so
Hmm.
we were like, scare them off, but they're very mellow with them.
Okay.
I think they just have an instinct for um, this isn't harmful.
Sure. How is that transition going?
So we are bringing home a dairy cow in May. Um,
Okay.
we went from a herd of 16, and my husband and I started talking about the cow because the idea behind it was we need to manage less bodies now that we have
Mm.
our heavy equipment repair business down in town and it's not mobile. We have to be able to commit to being down there more. And
Mm.
so I'm like, I can't manage the 15 and move the pasture every day by myself. I'm physically too small. I
Yeah.
cannot get all the stuff moved. So it's always been a two-person job and it's been really labor intensive. And so we prayed over it and God was like, good job, guys. Yes. So
Yeah.
I sold off half of the herd to one person. It went so smoothly. Um, and then we butchered our last two meat goats. I have two dairy girls that will keep through the winter, and then they're going to a really dear friend up in Washington in spring. So we have two goats left, three lambs. The lambs go in the freezer in next month, middle of the month, and we're gonna sail through winter with two goats, which is crazy. Two
Mm.
goats, 30 chickens, and then we have the pigs. But yeah, our farm is gonna be small for a while, and I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Okay. I was thinking it's just sad to see, you
It
have to
is.
distance yourself, but it's sad to see
It's funny because
them go.
I never had a heart for like a dairy cow. Like I was so satisfied with my goats. Like I
Hmm.
loved them and I loved the process and planning and breeding and they were just easy for the kids to manage. That was one thing I really loved is
Hmm.
they got so much responsibility that they learned through animals that were more a size that there was easier for them to manage. Um and I enjoyed that. But my heart has completely shifted. And as I'm saying goodbye, the two that I was the saddest about, my friend was like, "Oh, well, I'll take them."
Yay.
And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'll see them again and I'll get to see their babies. And so it really is working out wonderfully. Everything with the cow is lining up perfectly. Like it's so a God thing, completely a God thing.
Yeah. And you get that peace around it and ease and
100%.
often surrounding a hard decision.
Well, yeah, like
This
when
is
do
a
we
big
get peace
change.
surrounding livestock? They're chaos, but
Sure. Yeah,
for
absolutely.
now I
And
have it. Yeah.
kids are bigger, the animal's going to be bigger.
Mhm.
what are you thinking? Like, you have venison in the freezer, right? What else is in the freezer for you guys for like the hard part of the winter?
Um, so we've got venison. We just put two goats in the freezer. Um, we usually eat through our beef so quick, so there's almost
Yeah.
never beef. It's always in the freezer in the summer. And then we have a lot of food on the shelf as well. Like we did well during turkey season, small animal, but we made a lot with it.
Cool.
Um, we've got venison on the shelf, goat on the shelf, chicken. We've got some chickens in the freezer. My sister and brother-in-law do what did they just do? I think they just put like 15 in the freezer. And so we helped with that. And we got some chickens there. They helped with our goats. They got some goat there.
And
Lo-
when you say on the shelf, it's canned.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that pressure? It
Yep.
has to be, right?
Yeah. Well, as I'm finding out, there's people who will water bath meat for 3 hours, and I'm not interested in that, but that
Whoa.
it's possible. Yeah. But yeah, so that's pressure canned. And then we'll have the lambs coming in January, which I really like how we stagger that because we don't have all the space. So while it is a bit of a nuisance to keep the animal live because you're putting money
Mhm.
into feeding them, and with our property, we don't typically have to pay to feed them until it starts to snow. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit of it feels a little wasteful, but it is kind of like this doesn't fit right now, but it will. And then we have pork.
You have pigs?
Yes.
Okay.
This is our
I don't
second
know how I missed that.
Yeah, this is our second year of raising pigs, and pigs are something that's a whole family endeavor because we have my parents up here and then my sister, brother-in-law, and their two kids, and so pigs are not like a us thing, it's
Hmm.
a whole family thing. So like the chores are just rotated. We have our chore days. Ours are Saturday, Sunday, and then we just kind of delegate it out through the week. And then when it comes to butcher day,
Cool.
everyone has their own pig. We wipe them all out together, get it done, and then we start over.
And you guys are processing everything yourselves
Mhm.
because you have, right, like a room or like you made a processing area. I
Someday,
thought that was so cool.
right
Oh,
now
okay.
at my house, we literally hang animals from my rafters with a
Okay.
plastic sheet underneath. Like because my house is like, I don't have anything permanent right now. Like I don't have cupboards. So like we can just push everything to the side and clear my whole house out and turn it into a processing room.
Cool.
And then my husband built a 9 foot like island and we just cover it and put like giant industrial cutting boards all over it. And we've got meat hanging from the ceiling and it's great. It works out really nicely.
That's when you invite the guests from out of town.
Well, it's funny. We have our neighbors. We're raising a lamb for our neighbors and for my parents. And our neighbors, they haven't butchered anything before. They've never processed. They've never like connected with their food like that.
Yeah.
And so they're really excited to learn, but they're really dreading January
Hmm.
because they're nervous about the emotion behind it. But I'm really
Hmm.
excited for them to have that experience, and we'll see if we raise any animals for them again. Depends
Yeah,
on
that's
their
huge.
experience.
I
Yeah.
wonder if you can, like, how do you get that out to people? Like, you have to do it. You just have to do it.
Yeah. And they'll
You
talk
can't
about
like read a book about it. You can't like,
yeah.
watch it. You could watch a YouTube video, but it's not nothing like doing it yourself. That's
It's
awesome.
not the same. Yeah. And like they came over, I I don't know if this was like kind of a little more intense than they had hoped, but like I really wanted like it's not hard for me to go raise a lamb for somebody. I have the infrastructure. Um,
Hmm.
the way we worked it was they put in the monetary, like there was a few things we needed to provide for them. And my husband and I, our contribution was our time and our knowledge. And so but we had them come over and bottle feed these lambs while they were still little to connect because that's
Yeah.
a part of it. And if they were just like, we have a lamb over at the neighbors, it's not the same thing as we
True.
helped. One of them was really sick. Because we got bummers and we brought them back from the brink of death and we
Hmm.
made them be a part of that too. And because I want them to have that full experience like that.
Yeah.
We cared for them and we gave them a really good life and they have one bad day.
And you're there for that too.
Yeah.
So on the other side, how was your guys's fall? Tell me about the hunt. It sounded like turkey and uh,
Yeah,
deer too.
and then deer. And we hunt the unit that our land is on.
Cool.
It's just the most convenient because I can just, pop around with the kids whenever. Um, I like hunting with my husband, so and I like it being a family thing, but he just has so much less time, and so it's nice to have tags on the unit that our property is on. We didn't do super well this year. I got a doe, a little tiny doe. All the bucks disappeared. Um, and yeah, there was just some issues up here with poaching and whatnot.
Oh
So
no.
it was a bit of a struggle this year. But I was able to get one. My husband turned his back and got a deer. The kids got to be there for it, and
Cool.
randomly our barn cat that followed us on our 5 mile hike. But it was
It was not a surprise.
he probably thinks less of me now, yeah, it was really fun, and we have new plans for next year. We actually spent a lot of time exploring the side of our property that isn't as like farmland usable. And so we explored a lot of game trails, and we just saw a lot of new stuff, and it's definitely going to aid us in how and where we hunt next year. And then my daughter actually will be able to hunt next year. So we'll be able to pull 3 tags. And then as far as elk is so hard to get up here in this particular unit. So we'll put in for it, but probably won't get it. We're putting in for moose tags this next year as well. Probably won't get it, but maybe
Of
someday.
the preference points built up.
Hmm. Yeah,
Do you guys have sustenance tags available?
I'm not sure. We
Hmm.
raise so much of our own food that
Right.
like this is the first year we actually focused on wild game because we were managing so much of our own farm, and we realized that phasing out goats, we wouldn't have that just like, whenever the freezer has some room, go put some more in
Right.
it. Just with that one dairy cow, and then the pigs, we this year we're like, all right, we gotta get going on hunting. And so I don't know as much as I should, or as much as I would like to, because I've been like tunnel vision on farm. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure about that.
Can you guys, I'm sure you can trap. Have you ever looked into trapping and setting some up?
Trapping is really good over here.
Yeah.
Haven't done it. Haven't done it. We have a neighbor who is like, let me know. He's like, it's amazing. You guys need to do it. And I
Cool.
feel like that's something my son would absolutely love. Like I'd
Yeah.
love to be like, go check your trap line, little buddy.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that's all in the works. I think that not managing so many bodies is really going to free up, kind of diversify our ability to like try different things and see which ones work better for us. And I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. It's not a great source of meat, right? But you can use the furs and, line
Mhm,
gloves and stuff. And
mhm,
it's nice to have someone that knows how to set a line without taking a finger off. Another thing you can't really learn from a book and YouTube.
mhm.
YouTube's there. That's what most people
Yeah.
do. But to have someone say, hey, put all of your energy on this one spot.
Yeah. And I mean, for predator management and stuff, that's another thing that
Right.
we want to get a little better at as well. We feel very protected because of our dogs. Um, but like, I mean, this is our first year that we haven't had bears just running out our ears and just
Wow.
constantly harassing us. I mean, we're sitting there having a cup of coffee, and one just pops up right behind my sister's trailer and isn't bothered by us at all, making
Mhm.
noise, nothing, like just no fear. We noticed that it's always two. There's always two combing the area. And what we learned was that mama will have like cubs, and they might all hang out together for a while, but cubs will typically stick together for quite some time. So we're always hearing them call to each other.
Mm.
And you'll just be out doing night chores and hear bears. So this is the first year that I have not seen. Yeah. Usually we see them all summer and fall, and I haven't seen a single bear. And it's actually been really nice because my kids like to run amok. Like I don't want to have to worry about it.
Right.
I haven't carried, I, last winter you had winter, well, because of coyotes and wolves and stuff, but like spring and stuff, we had to be armed at all times. And like it's fine, but like I don't want to be like really kind of nervous and uncomfortable if I walk out my door and I forgot to bring my sidearm or something. It's nice to not have to worry about that
Yeah.
so much. And so that's been really nice.
Yeah, we had I wasn't home for whatever reason, but my husband and my son were in the hammock and they had kind of like closed it and the dogs were quiet and there was a bear right there and they were, like playing and the dogs caught the scent and then, chaos ensued.
Hmm.
Everyone
Yeah.
was fine, everyone was safe, but you don't have that luxury when, and you guys are in year 3, right?
Yeah. April 25 will be 3 solid years.
And I'm sure they've been in that area minding
Mhm.
their own business.
This
Just
area
like, who are you people?
Yeah, this area that we're in was raw land. Like so when we purchased the land, they broke up 3 pieces of like I don't remember what the acreage was, but they broke it up and there was nothing here. There was nothing on here. Some of the neighbors had that we've talked to over time were like, yeah, because there's a lot of beef ranchers up here.
Hmm.
They're like, I mean, yeah, we leased it out and ran cows on it, but it's never been inhabited. So we, our first couple of years, um, yellow jackets, wasps were horrible. Ticks were
Hmm.
terrible. We've been managing that with a flock of guineas for this will be the 3rd year, and it's huge difference, huge difference.
Cool.
We also do really well with the snakes, and so just the longer we've been here, the better that stuff has been. And yeah, the bears are definitely moving off. Even the coyotes, like our first year here, mating season was the stuff of nightmares all night long. My dogs in the
Hmm.
morning, and the coyotes would be back, but they would just they were dead. They were so tired from just being on high alert all day or all night. And then into the morning, we'd be out doing chores, and my kids were terrified to go out. Our family dog was like boxing them in, trying to keep them safe. Like it was stressful. It was really stressful. But I mean, this last winter wasn't like that at all. It was wild.
Nice. You guys are definitely, putting in the work to get the reward. It's just a lot of hard work. And nothing in life is worth having without that hard work, right? If it comes
Yeah.
easy, it's probably not that great.
It definitely brings out a lot of good stories, and it definitely um, puts pressure on your faith and makes you focus on making sure that like God is the center. Because I mean, I wouldn't be here. I would be done if it
Yeah.
weren't for just knowing without a shadow of a doubt that this is where God has us. And I mean, when you look at it, it's like it's kind of cool that God decided this was my story. And it's been really challenging, but it's been a lot of fun. And like, I think a lot of times with the way that life can be now, we lose the opportunity to have just those really cool, good stories. Our grandparents tell cool stories, like just interesting and fascinating stories about how life was. And I'm pretty excited that my kids are going to have some wild stories, like the time that the elk chased our dog and like just good stories. And so I'm really grateful for that.
You guys are living the wild
Well,
story
a little bit,
from old.
a little bit. Yeah.
So, what was the story of the elk chasing the dog?
So we had just moved to the top part of our property. Like I said, when we got here, basically, and we came in uh fifth wheels trucks, and we had to drive across a field, and then our property dips down um to this like little valley, and then we climb up and we get into like a bunch of timber, but we couldn't access the top. So we came in April. Spring was real muddy, real rough. It was by the grace of God that we made it onto our property, because we were thinking we were going to have to set up our trailers for a couple of weeks on state land because we weren't sure we could get into ours. And so we had just carved out the road to the top of the property, moved our stuff up, and my husband, my dad, and my brother-in-law took the kids and our family dog Chevy for a walk. And so they cruised down the road that they had just made, and then they were headed out to state land, past our pond where we would commonly see elk. Well, I don't think my dog's ever seen an elk before, like not inside a vehicle where he could like kind of do whatever he wanted. And I don't think he knew what to do with himself. So all in protection mode, he starts chasing this elk, and they run out of sight,
Mm.
and they're like, oh no, like, he could get stomped. He's making bad choices. And then all of a sudden they see him, and there's an elk chasing. It sees all the people, and then it like stops and snorts and then runs
Sure.
off. And Chevy learned his lesson. He doesn't chase elk anymore. He doesn't even chase turkeys anymore. He doesn't know what to expect. So he just doesn't do any of it. He just sits there and growls like, like he should. But
Was
yeah,
it full rack?
it was actually it was a mama protecting a little
Okay.
calf. Yeah.
Almost even scarier.
I think that's worse. Hmm.
And wild turkeys look so wily. You're like, I'm gonna leave those things alone.
Yeah.
Have you guys processed like farm turkeys versus wild turkeys?
Mhm.
I know there's a different processing. How do you process your wild turkeys?
Um, well, I mean, we process them exactly the same. It's just a
Okay.
size difference. And then what's interesting is what you'll see in their crop is so much different. Obviously, farm raised turkeys. We did that when we were still in Oregon. We raised like Royal Palms, and they were enormous. We raised them out to 40 pounds hanging weight, which was
Oh,
insane. We should have butchered sooner. Um, but just size is really what you'll see as a difference. The wild turkeys are so clean. They're so
mm,
clean. I mean, they're roosting in trees, oftentimes a different tree every night if they're moving around and stuff. Um, they're very, very clean. And their crop is just full of like berries and grass, where
sure.
the farm turkeys are a bunch of feed grain and stuff. um but processing wise, you just process them the exact same.
Okay.
But we have noticed we may raise turkeys again, which we're kind of like, oh, that seems so ridiculous. We just don't enjoy wild turkey like we do our farm raised
Mm,
turkey. They're not as big. They're not as meaty. The meat's a little tougher. So whenever we have a wild turkey, we pressure can it. We'll do soups with it because the flavor is good, but it's just really tough.
mhm.
And so yeah, turkey season isn't something we get super excited about. It's just a means to have food, and it seems kind of silly to squander it, especially since they're like rodents. This morning there was about 60 of them right in front of my porch. They usually come through here like every other day, and
Mm,
there's tons of them. So it seems like squandering if we don't take advantage of
right.
the season. I make a joke. I think that it's because they're everywhere, and they'll try and get into our feed barn and stuff. And every once in a while, they'll chase our or our free ranging chickens, and our guineas get so upset at them. They'll be screaming at them from like down a little ways. Um, but I make the joke that I think it's pretty ridiculous that you can only eat your neighbors in the fall
Yep.
because they're just
Well,
everywhere. Like we just hang out with them all the time.
yeah. Worse for us, we draw units nearby. Can't do anything in the neighborhood, but we'll get home and they'll be waiting for us on the front porch, pecking in front of the house.
Uh-huh. They know stuff. Like they know where to
Yeah.
be and where not to be. We were house sitting for some neighbors last year on Thanksgiving, and we literally had a turkey that we were taking up to their house because we were just going to utilize the fact that there was a fully functioning house at our disposal. And so we did our
Mm,
little Thanksgiving over there, and there was probably 100 turkeys sitting there. And I'm like, I don't even need a turkey right now. Like, but they're hanging out, feeling really comfortable. It's funny.
yeah. Wild turkeys are bananas. I do like turkey season. I like the calls. I like the call and response, the crow calls, and it's like adult Marco Polo.
I
So
just
much
enjoy
fun.
hunting in general. I don't really
Yeah.
care what I'm hunting
Well,
for,
yeah.
but I do love when what you're hunting for and you're successful when it's larger and it feels worth putting the time and energy into. If hunting weren't so easy to just do,
Mm,
I probably wouldn't hunt turkey at all because I just don't love it that much. But it's
mm.
like it's too easy.
Yeah, you're out there, you feel the seasons. It's not like you're walking into a store and you see the seasons like,
Mm-hmm.
commercialized. You're actually in the rhythm of nature and you get, okay, we've got this beautiful change in the world and it is worth celebrating and it is super cool out there in the woods. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that like one of the reasons that we've really prioritized, like now that we're settled in a little bit better and we kind of have a flow to life, kind of, how as much as you can. But we want this is a really great age for our kids to be hunting. I mean, every age really is a great time to introduce something that's going to be so big in your life, but our kids just love it so much. And so we're trying to utilize every single season to get them really excited about it because I mean, I grew up my family was huge hunting family. I didn't care to go until like later in life, but
Mhm.
um there's just so much good family time and so many good memories from it. And I want my kids to have those because I have really fond ones of it. So even if it's not a season we're super excited about, we are trying to make that more of a priority and it's been really enjoyable.
That's awesome. Get them out, teach them responsibility and the
Hmm.
fun for the hunt. I didn't start until I was an adult. I never wanted to go as a kid. And
Hmm.
then I am realizing, like, as an adult, I make these decisions that are, premeditated and practical. And I get out there, um, I'll just forget stuff. Like we drove out for my birthday, we camped, and then we were like, well, it's my birthday, it's the end of the day. We had a good day scouting the area, time to camp. And I was like, oh, let's go get some beer. So we get in the truck, we drive in, and we pass just a herd of does. My husband's like, this is our area, this is our unit. And I didn't bring anything with me. And, we didn't see him the next day. We were loud and kind of spooked him out of the area. And then the next one, we climbed a mountain and I forgot my trigger at the truck. So I unpacked my whole bag when we got up there, stalking a buck, climbed back down the mountain. Trigger was on the side of the truck where I was getting ready, climbed back up. And then the last one, oh, I stepped on my own bow coming back from the bathroom and I messed up the sight. And then we were 250 yards away, and my husband was like, okay, this is best opportunity. They don't know we're here. I skylined myself a little bit. The sun was behind me, and I just made like a movement, and
Hmm.
spooked them. And I was like, there's no way they saw me. Yes, they saw you, and you're just a noob at this. You actually are the worst at hunting. So it's funny
But
starting as an adult and making kid mistakes when I could have just gone
uh
as a kid and gotten this all smoothed out.
yeah. Well, but
The
you've
worst.
also chose because you're bow hunting, and that definitely is
Yeah.
like a whole nother,
Yep.
like you chose a harder hard. And so, I mean, when you do master that, that's going to be quite the accomplishment. I don't bow hunt. My husband's bow hunted. And I enjoy rifle hunting. And he just likes to do, we just like to do the stuff together. So he's like, I'm not gonna go bow hunt by myself. So but yeah, you chose the harder hard, so don't beat
Mm.
yourself up too much.
There's so many things that have to go right. You have to have the wind at your back. You have to have all your gear. You got to have your tag. You got to have your, you know, checks and balances as you go through. Do I have everything with me? And then you have to
Mm,
get in that right spot with the right,
yeah.
you have to train all year. It's nuts. Everything has to go right to make that. So when it does, I'm putting the photo
Yeah.
up and I'm going to be like, yeah,
Yes, yeah. That's
many years.
yeah, I definitely and I think that's another thing too is I think that there's more training and necessary time needs to be put into bow hunting like with this is like now I just feel like basically I'm just lazy hunting. Basically I go out there, I sighted my rifle and I'm like, "Yep, you can still hit the broadside of a barn. Let's go. Bring a snack."
Well, I was going to ask, are you guys doing blinds? Or are you doing like the Western style boots on the ground?
Boots on the ground.
Miles.
My husband
Cool.
cannot, he can't sit still.
Mm.
I he's the funniest bow hunter because obviously you need to be pretty stealthy, but he wants to bow hunt by moving all the time.
Hmm. Yep.
And that's like how he prefers. We have great places where we could do blinds or tree stands or something, and that's probably going to happen eventually. It would be nice just for those, whatever situations where it's like, no, today I really do just want to sit. We also have a lot of
Mhm.
uh hillsides and like really cliffy areas where it's actually like really great. You're basically in a tree stand because you're just like out of sight, and you get this nice valley
Nice.
where you can just nail something and then bring the truck down. Um and so that's really nice. And I think that's one of the reasons that we haven't even bothered. But yeah, hunting with my husband is hilarious because he's got huge feet and he wants to move. Like he's like, we gotta cover some ground. And I'm like, no, we don't. So I mean, like I'm squatting down. Yeah, like Sasquatch. I'm following Sasquatch through the woods. Like, but I'll squat down, and look below the tree line, and I'm like, there's feet. I see deer. Like, stop moving. And he's like, where'd you see those? I'm like, I'm down here. Like, let's sit down for a minute, buddy. I mean,
Oh, good.
but he likes to mob. He's a busy guy and he loves to hunt because it's a great excuse to just mob through the woods.
Yep.
And it's funny now, we've got kids trailing. They do so stinking good. Like those kids,
That's awesome.
we'll give them a stick sometimes. And be like, carry the stick because someday it'll be a rifle. And
Nice.
they'll be climbing up hillsides with it like in their elbows. And I'm just like, this is the best. Like this is so
That
cool.
is.
Um, but yeah, he has had to slow down because of the kids, and I think it's hilarious because I can see like this, like he'll be like rolling his neck around, like, are we? You guys want to like jog for a bit?
Well, so we on that stock where I forgot my trigger, we had, you know, got bumped this buck, so we had to be that super stealthy. I didn't realize I was more exhausted going a mile that day than I had the 10 the day before. Because I didn't know this. There's like a bell curve. So if you're moving at your normal rate, like your normal pace around your house, you're conserving the most amount of energy. Maybe it's an inverse curve. Yeah, it's inverse. So if you're going too slow or if you're going too fast, I knew this one, you burn a ton of energy. It's a ton of calories to go fast, like sprinting. It's also
Mhm.
burns a ton of calories to go slower than your normal. So
Restraint.
slow stalking and lifting
Uh-huh.
one foot and then pausing, that's going to burn as many calories as sprinting through the forest. That's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Then it's a lot of brain power too. I mean, because you're making sure you're not cracking every twig.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of the time you've got a good boot on, so it's a little heavier and like it everything. And like we'll go out for a good part of the day. So I mean, we're usually packing a little something, and then the weight of your rifle. And well, unless you have a bow, that is like one thing I'm like, maybe we should bow hunt. They seem lighter.
They're totally, yeah.
Yeah, they're nice and light, but I mean, there's so much other things that make it very difficult. But yeah, there's definitely it's nice when we're trying to get to a location because you're a little more lax and you're moving at a good pace. But yeah, you're
Mhm.
right. That slow down and that stalking is tiring.
Yeah. And I just feel like super fit. I love just the mental toughness, getting up, getting out, getting up early. And
Mhm.
then you have, we're at 10,000 feet. You have no option.
Oh my
If you're
God.
out there and you
You're
haven't trained,
10,000 feet?
yeah. Our highest point is the lookout tower, and it's just up the road. So we live at, 7,500. I'm, jogging around our little cul-de-sac area at 7,500, but 10 is the high point. So you can't mess around.
Yeah, wow. We're at 5,000, and we've always lived like around that, maybe a little lower. But I was just like, yeah, geez, we're at 5,000 feet. 10, 10,000,
Well,
7,000.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it's true Western hunting. My husband comes from the Midwest in Michigan. Tree
Mhm.
blind, deer camps, the, drunk fest. You
Uh-huh.
roll up, you're napping all day. You come home and, you're successful
Uh-huh.
because they have a population management or not management issue, population issue.
Hmm.
Um, just a different ballgame for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. The I don't think I would be as interested in like big game hunting or really any at all if it was all like sitting in a blind. I
Yeah.
don't think I would enjoy it as much as I do because you see so much. I mean, we're looking at scat piles and,
Yeah.
where a bear has been rubbing on a tree or like, an elk or whatnot. And the kids are identifying droppings and, then we weirdly have a barn cat following us for miles. Like, there's a lot of interesting things that happen when you're on the move and you see some beautiful country and stuff. Yeah, it definitely is. There's definitely different kinds of hunters. Some people really enjoy that for what that is, and I like to move.
Yeah. I had so many pictures of poop on my camera roll. I was like, I gotta stop because I wanted to identify it when I got home. I was like, why did I take so many pictures of poop on the ground?
Then you see one of those things on Instagram like, no cheating, post your post your last picture, and I'm like, poop.
A scat. I didn't know what it was.
Footprint. Don't know what it
It was an odd shape. So I had to take a picture of it. I'm like, I gotta stop doing this to myself.
is. Yeah, what were you eating? Snap.
Well, the bear is the weirdest too. It's like neon colored in the forest. I'm like, how did you get neon pink scat? And it's interesting, like you said, that
Yeah.
you're walking around looking at interesting stuff.
Hmm.
How's the business?
It's going good. Um, we just switched from being 100% mobile to now having a shop, and it's been so good. And I say that like with like I know it's going to get better, but it's been really good. Like our name, the thing is you cruise into a new community and you're like, I am a mobile mechanic. And you show up,
Mhm.
nobody knows who you are, and you're in he's got a service truck and everything. But it's like what people really struggle with around here is people show up, they collect the service call, they do the diagnose, they claim they're ordering parts after collecting a parts deposit, and then they don't come back and you never hear from him again. So for us, that was like it was hard for him to build a reputation being newer to the area. But once he did, word of mouth was really great. But then now having a shop and people like we're sitting right next to and renting this building from a very reputable um business. And it's just been really great. They know exactly where their equipment is, which I mean, even when it was at their home, it's like they knew where it was. But it's panned out to be really, really wonderful. Again, a complete and total God thing. And it's great because this time of year when he was mobile, you pretty much you don't get much work.
Mm.
Farmers are well, it's maintenance season, so usually you'd see a lot, but it just wasn't the case for us last year. And I think that was really pivotal in us feeling like a business or a permanent shop, and not being mobile was such a good thing, because it doesn't make sense during maintenance season when they're not using their farm equipment to have no business. And so now we see, I think it was just more of a needing to have like a more reputable situation set up. And so God's been really good. We've been busy. Um, we've been busy. It's been really wonderful.
You're out of the house more, but it's because you have more work.
Yeah, it's an interesting shift because we're like, okay, I mean, Lord, why did you why did you sit us in the middle of nowhere to then have us drive an hour and a half in nice weather
Mhm.
into a shop 5 days a week? And
Man,
go into town 6 days a week because we go to church on Sundays. So we have
yeah.
one day a week that we don't go into town. And I don't go every day, but the kids and I go. In the summers we do twice a week, and in the winter we just do one. I just catch up on whatever I need to do on that one day, and then um so it seems a little funny, but it is funny. God has provided every step of the way. We get to live because I mean a lot of people look at it like you have to drive that all the time. It's a gorgeous stinking drive.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to lose that, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I live here. So it's really I get to live here and I get to have a business where we're serving our community and meeting a lot of really cool people and making really awesome connections. So I get to do it. I get to enjoy a nice drive where you decompress and just look at the beauty. And sometimes it's white knuckle driving, but I get to,
In
and
the
it's
winter.
awesome.
Well, I was thinking that of you get more community.
Mhm.
And then when, 200 years ago, you made the community where you were at because you couldn't drive and make these big treks into a more populated area. You
Mhm.
had to be, the tech in your area and more
Mhm.
community, more people. I'm naturally good at this, and that's what I'm going to serve in my community. And then we, like kind of COVID generation that moved far away, we're like, well, we
Mhm.
have these towns, but we're all kind of in our own huts, isolated. And then, like us, we have town and then we have a village, and everyone kind of goes to town, not the village, because they have more to offer. You kind of lose
Mhm.
that community piece, but it sounds like you guys get that. You get the friendships, you get the long term.
Yeah, and it's been nice too because the mobile was very isolating, like,
Yeah,
um, and we hadn't found a church that we liked yet, so it was like,
right.
the kids were isolated because I don't have a choice. Like I can't not homeschool. I absolutely couldn't, make that work. Even with my husband going into town every day, like I want to homeschool them, um, but even with him going in every day, it's just like that would just be so much to manage. And then it does feel like, well, I would be kind of squandering this like gorgeous chunk of property that I have them to grow up on and help us cultivate and stuff in it. And so um it I don't remember where I was going with that actually. But anyway,
Less isolating, more
yes,
community.
isolating,
Yeah,
isolating. Yeah, it was a little isolating, but then it's like, and we didn't really have a way out of that. We are like, this is amazing, but we're lacking a little bit because we weren't meant to just, exist alone. And like we have our
yeah,
family on the property and stuff, but like
yeah.
um I don't want to not be a part of my community. That was never my goal, like moving in the middle of nowhere. It's not self-sufficiency, it's community sufficiency. And eventually, we end up needing each other and other people. And dang, if we didn't land in like an amazing community. And God started showing us that by showing us that the isolation didn't work and it
Mm,
wasn't going to work. And we're like, we're not isolated. We have great neighbors. And my
yeah.
family lives up here. Like we're not isolated, but we were. Um,
Mm.
and so now, my husband, there's places I'll go in town and they're like, oh, because he's out in town all the time. And they're like, oh, you're the wife. And I'm like, what did he do? Because
That's
he got,
Proverbs, girl. Your husband's known in the city circle, well
Mhm.
regarded in the city circle.
Yeah, he is. And
A good wife.
he's really making a name for himself. And I'm so proud. He's just one of those guys that he works so hard and he cares so much and he will bend over backwards for anybody. And so, no, and he's so talented at he's so good. Like I love watching my husband working on machinery. Like I think it is so fascinating. I love it when he runs his mouth and tells me what he's doing. Um and so for him to, for the Lord to really be blessing our business, it makes me so happy for him because he loves to do it.
Mm.
And he's just so great at it. And so it's really exciting to see that going really well. I knew it would someday. It was just God's timing.
Do you have to work with the Parks and Wildlife Department for your acreage?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Nope. We have like Idaho Fish and Game. They cruise around up here a bit and like during the seasons and stuff. They have checkpoints where whether you were successful or not, you check in. But like we don't have anybody, I mean, unless there's something going on. There was some poaching up here. And so
Hmm.
like the neighbors who were around those surrounding areas, they checked in with them and stuff. But unless there's something going on, I never hear from them.
So you don't want to. No news is good news.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, the thing about our property too is so there's like a fair amount of state land, but it's mostly private up here. Mostly private. And so where we are
Mm.
particularly, we are surrounded on three sides by private land and one side by state land. But
Wow.
it's kind of like inaccessible. I mean, you have to
Mm.
really hike in. You're not going to drive into it. And so and then like if you wanted to visit, you'd have to know where we are. It's not like an address won't do you any good. And so we're kind of in our own little world. We don't, you don't really run into someone that you don't know back here unless they're trespassing.
Yeah.
So we don't hear from government officials or really anything back here. We're behind locked gate, with, yeah, like a with padlock. So no one really comes back here. And if they're back here, you should be
Yeah.
worried.
Anything you're working on that you want to share to kind of wrap up?
Well, we're just transitioning, getting our farm transitioned for the cow in the spring, which I'm really excited about. Um, I've been painting more, which has been really fun, and really rewarding. And yeah, just trying to make sure that we are listening to the Lord and staying on a path that He has chosen for us because it's been a really great path. And I do assume veering off would probably be a lot less fun. So,
And rewarding. It's that, right? You shoulder your cross uphill. I always
mhm.
have to remember that. Like, not only are you shouldering your cross, it's uphill. The yoke is light. The something's easy. Watching that Bible verse.
Yeah, I know. And I know that verse and I love that verse, but right now I can't tell you. Like, yours is like,
It's good.
your
My
burdens are
point is, hard
light.
work's good. You get good results. Doing what you guys are doing from the ground up is hard.
Yeah.
Cool
And I have
results.
to
It's cool to
remember
see
that.
that story.
I have to remember that too, like, because it's really discouraging sometimes when you're not when you're not moving forward at a pace that you feel like you should be. But like where the Lord has placed us right now is like a really hard spot, like especially like in the timeline of it. Like we're in the first 3 years of
Hmm.
our off grid, like raw land development. That's hard. And you hear statistically, like 3 to 5 years is like the failure point. Like people are like, I've had enough. And then we're also doing a small business. Um,
Hmm.
and same thing. Like the first couple of years, 3 to 5, is really challenging. And you see either success or failure. And it's really your ability to determine whether or not is this actually going to succeed even if I do push through? Like, is there a success point that I'm going to reach, or am I hanging on to something that is just not thriving? Like determining that and then sticking with it. And we're in the early stages of two things that often people fail at. And I so I'm like, I have to remember that. Like it's not like we're doing a terrible job. It's not like we're slow. It's none of that. Uh,
Hmm.
it's that we are like at the pinnacle of that challenge where it's not the physical anymore, it's really the mental toughness that you have to dig into. And fortunately we have realized that that mental toughness really does come from our spiritual walk with the Lord. And so I'll say it again, I would not be here, still doing this nuts stuff if I was not encouraged daily by the Lord, because it's been really challenging. There's
Hmm.
been a lot of hurdles and we're headed for more of them, but it's fine. It's good because God's got it. But yeah.
Absolutely. God's got it. And if you could pull out, especially with the family, extended, not extended family, but close family, you guys are building a legacy and you could just for him as many descendants as the sand. You just don't know what that turns into three
Mhm.
generations from now, 4 generations from now. And then you can look back and be like, wow, we planted our, flag, our family flag here, and look at what's come. So
We
that's
have
my prayer for you guys.
we have this sign that my husband made. He like fabricated, and he broke up. So our last names, my parents, and then my sister and brother-in-laws, and then ours. And he smashed it together. Like we made this joke a while back, and we're like, we're this one weird family, and so we cut the names up, and he made this like big metal sign, and it's Schmatberg. Smashed everybody's name together. It's so goofy, but smashed it all together, and we have it like hanging out by the entrance. And I really want to put it like on these pillars because I mean, how many people get to chat with their daughter and son about like, well, where do you want to build your house? Like,
Yeah,
Lord willing, you meet when you meet the people that the Lord has for you in due time, where if the plan for your life is to be up here, like where do you see yourself, where's your favorite spot on the property, and like getting to talk about that with my kids and stuff, and just not knowing where like this act of obedience, um by moving out in the middle of nowhere and doing all this hard stuff, like what is that going to do for my children?
yeah,
um I'm really 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 excited to see how that all plays out, and it just gives me a lot of joy to know that um this is kind of inheritance for it's our legacy.
yeah. Huge responsibility. huge payoff. Have you heard of Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Yours are like the 1800s version. It's gonna pay off.
It is. It is. And I mean, like the cool things that they'll do in their lives. Because they've got whether they, choose to, go into town and have plumbing,
Sure.
whether they do or do not, this will be tucked in their back pocket. And um just knowing that this is going to be a place whether they choose to live here or not, whether it's God's plan for them or not, like that this is a place where they're going to always want to come back. Like that's what I
Mhm.
want for them is to like I can't wait to go see mom and dad. I can't wait to
Yeah.
take the grandkids up there. Um my husband and I want to do like a dog trot style and have like a guest house like right off the side of this house eventually just so that they always have like a
Yeah.
place to come home.
And even if they do big city stuff, you see Hallmark every year and it reminds you.
Yeah.
They're big city, but they'll be here.
That's okay. Like it's not, there's nothing wrong. God puts people in the city and just not us, but and not a lot of other people. But, you know, if that's what's for them, I hope that their heart will be content there. And that
Mm.
they will love every minute that they get to come back here. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, well, you don't know where the Lord's going to take you. And I got this weird feeling. It's okay if it's wrong, but this weird feeling that this is like it for us. Like this is
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm gonna die on this land. Because how crazy would it be for the Lord to like lead us here and be like, you should do all these hard things, build a house. You don't know how to build a house, but you should do that. And you
Fix
don't
the
know how to do
roads.
all of these things, and then be like, and I mean, trying to sell this property would be absolutely so weird. There'll
Yeah.
be 3 homes built on it. It like, yeah. It's one of those things where if you leave everything behind with the family and it stays in the family. So it'd be really interesting to see if that ever happened. But it just feels like a final place. And that's kind of really a peaceful feeling, unless it changes. It's okay if it does. I don't want to say never because the Lord does like to have us never like we've nevered before. But but it's a very peaceful feeling knowing that like everything that we do, it feels like we'll see that in 20 years. We'll see that. I mean,
Yeah.
until the Lord comes back, we will see the fruits of our labor. And every year we'll be like, dang, that's really nice. That progress is so nice.
Yeah.
This has been slow going.
By your hands. That's great. Thank you for joining me, Haley.
Yeah, no problem.